So in celebration of Father's Day, could we please have all the fathers in the room please rise and let's congratulate them and welcome them. Can we, please? Awesome. Yes, beautiful. Thank you for being here this morning. So I wanted to share a few things about Father's Day I kind of thought interesting, and as I was doing some research, I found out that in 1910 was the first Father's Day on record, and it was June 19th, and it was a day reportedly started by someone by the name of Sonora Smart Dodd of Spokane, Washington. And Dodd was a daughter of a widower, and she felt moved to start a day that honored fathers, because what happened is she had saw the success that Mother's Day had, but Mother's Day started 3 days before. Of course, the guys are a little bit slow to the party, so it took a couple of years for things to get going, right? So Washington State actually was the first state that celebrated Father's Day. And then years later, 62 years later, the nation's first Father's Day celebration took place as Richard Nixon signed a proclamation that permanently made Father's Day the third Sunday in June, according to the Library of Congress. President Lyndon Johnson made the declaration stating the same thing 6 years ago, but he never signed it into law. Who knew, right? Did you know that there are approximately 72.2 million fathers as of 2014, according to the Census Bureau? According to that same Census Bureau, 2 million men are considered single fathers living with their children. There's approximately 204,000 men who are Mr. Moms. They stay at home and they take care of their children. In 2019, there were approximately 73 million children in the United States. Wow, amazing. Father's Day spending projected this year to be approximately $20 billion on Father's Day. There you go. We get something, right? Did you know there's approximately 100 million ties sold on Father's Day each year? I don't have one, but hey. And last but not least, there are approximately 72 million cards exchanged, according to Hallmark. They say that Father's Day is the fourth largest card sending holiday in the country. Oh, one more. Approximately $179.79. In case, dads, you're wondering, well, what am I really worth? That's on average what is going to be spent on this day, on fathers on this day. So in recognition of all that, to all the dads, and by the way, when I say dads, biological dads, stepdads, adopted, or how many dads out there have critters? Yeah, there we go. Of course, you're dads. So to all of you, God bless you. Thank you for doing what you've done. Thank you for doing what you're doing. Thank you for showing up and being that example that is so desperately needed these times. So thank you. And God bless each and every one of you this Father's Day, and I hope you enjoy your days. Okay? Awesome. Now, Unity of Grand Rapids. Oh my goodness. So many thoughts, so many memories, so much time, so much effort has been put into this building and the celebration of it. Because for many of you, this has been a huge, huge part of your lives. I think of all the thousands of services in here, the classes, both adult and children, the weddings, the celebrations of life, all the above. And it's only been that much of my history. So I think it makes a whole lot more sense to have somebody come up here who's actually been a part of this for pretty much his entire life. And so we're going to welcome up to the front Chuck Pearson so he can share. his history of this amazing, amazing building.
Thanks, Mike. Well, as Mike said, I was kind of born to be on the board. I found in here we have board minutes all the way back to 1947. And I was looking through these board minutes, and I happened to look on September 21st, 1959. And my mom was on the board at that time, but on that particular day, she wasn't there. And the reason she wasn't there is because that was the day I was born. So I was born to be on the board. But I just wanted to welcome everyone. As Mike said, I kind of grew up here. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the history of the church, some of the things that we've done here, introduce you to some people that actually built the church, introduce you to some people that worked here for 25 years. And I just wanted to share some of these memories with you. And then at the end, I want to invite you to come up and share some of your memories as well. So I'm going to be doing like this because the pointer is in the back there. If you're in the back, if you would like to come up a little bit, we're going to show some pictures up here, but they're a little bit small, so you might not be able to see them all the way back. So if you want to be able to see those, feel free to come on up. As most of you know, Unity started in Grand Rapids in 1920, so we celebrated our 100th anniversary in 2020. And when you go into the fellowship hall, right now it's called Fairchild Hall, because Barb Fairchild was one of the first members here, and they started this whole church along with several others. But go in there, there's a whole mural full of pictures back there that are really fun to see. But the earliest pic I could find was this one. This is a Unity Church picnic at Amon Park in 1931. And I know you can't see it, but right in the very front row is a little blonde girl sitting on the lap of her sister. And that's my mom at 3 years old. And the person that she's sitting on the lap is her sister, Barb Fairchild, and she was 9. So that gives you a little bit of an idea of how long that's been. But look at how many people are there. But that was the earliest pic I could find. So I wanted to give you some building facts. So the first one is this church property was purchased in September of 1961. And I went through all the records to verify this. And the land was purchased for $15,000. $15,000. The building cost at the time was somewhere between $100,000 and $120,000. The church was built during the second half of 1962. And the first service was held in January of 1963 after a major snowstorm. And I was talking to my sister, and she was saying my mom got up in blue jeans, and she shoveled the drive. And she came to church in their blue jeans, and she was mortified that my mom would come to church in her blue jeans. And the first service was held in Fellowship Hall, where if you were the attendee, you had to bring your own chair, because they didn't have chairs left. And I went back and I figured, this is plus or minus, we've had over 3,000 services in the church. So you are part of a long, long history. You are part of a long, long history. And there have been many, many hundreds and thousands of people that have gone through these doors, and you're part of it. And can't thank you enough. But I also brought some pictures. This is one of the ones where the wall hasn't even been put up yet. And there's another one. And this is what the sanctuary used to look like when you first came in through those doors. And I promised that there were some people here that actually built the church, so I'd like to introduce them. First is Wally Pearson. Stand up if you would. Doug Fairchild and Randy Fairchild. And is there anyone else that was a part of that original first building that was here? I can't see. Oh, I can't see. I'm sorry. Oh, and she's back there. Oh, Penny. Okay. So I'm going to put Doug and Randy on the spot because they told me a story about the building of this sanctuary, and I asked them to tell the story for you.
Is this on? Thank you, Chuck. We helped build the church. A couple of things. Randy will tell the one about up there, but the one that I like is just personal to me is that, you know, in this auditorium, the name on the fellowship hall is for my mom and dad. Of course, in this auditorium with Unity, it's to make you feel good, it makes you feel high. I spray painted this building, the ceiling on this building, so I can literally say the fumes from that. I was the first person to get high in this auditorium.
Thanks, Chuck. As he said, this building was built in the fall of 1962. My brother and I were seniors and a sophomore and junior in high school, and we had football games on Friday night and basketball games on Friday night. And through that time, every Saturday morning, we were here at 8 o'clock working on this church. Neither one of us wanted to be here, but that's what it is. But the one thing I know that probably nobody else in the world knows is that the building used to end right there. You may know that, and there was a stained glass wall there. But then as the church grew, needed more room, so they added this on here. Well, the first wall ended there, and if you go and see, I think it's four beams back here, you'll notice that the beams that go across, because the roof is sloped, needed a shim on them so that the roof would maintain contact with the beams as it was put on. Well, we had a big crane here, and everybody was working, and each one of those boards was put on by hand and then nailed in with 8-inch nails. We do that all day long. And but if you look 3 or 4 back from where the old wall was, you notice on this side there'll be a little bit of a space there between the roof and the beam, and that's because that beam was put on backwards, so that the shim, rather than going like this, went like this. So I pointed that out to because we had a general contractor that supervised the operation. So he said, okay, we'll chip that beam off. So we started over here chipping the beam off. We got about 8 or 10 feet in, and you can see this today. He says, that's okay, just leave it. So you'll see an open space on this end for the first 8 or 10 feet where the shim was on top of the beam, and the rest of it you won't see that space because the shim is still there. So that's my story. Thank you. By the way,
And one of the favorite stories that my dad told me was when they were up doing the roof, he went to it was in the wintertime, so he went to pick up his coat, and somebody had nailed his coat to the floor, so so that's one of my favorite stories about that. Wanted to give you a little quick idea of, we've had 18 ministers for Unity of Grand Rapids, or ministry teams, and 16 of them were in this building. And there's a list of, there's pictures and listings of everything on that wall that I told you about in the fellowship hall in there. So when you get a chance to go ahead and look at that. And then I also wanted to introduce Pat Pearson, who was the church secretary for 25 years. And we did many activities here. These next couple pictures are from the festival. We used to do the festival every year, and we did it for probably, 25 years? And so we did flurries, and the reason we did flurries is we started out with salads. We thought it'd be a good idea for everybody to be healthy while they're at festival. That wasn't such a good idea. I think we had over 100 salads left over that we ended up giving to the local food pantry afterwards. So since then we decided to go to flurries, which were like the blizzards of Dairy Queen today. And we used to make probably between $5,000 and $10,000 almost every year. So it was a great money maker, but it was also a lot of work, and it took a lot of time. So if you were a part of that festival, would you raise your hand? Look at everybody that was a part of that festival. So that's awesome. And then we also even had a float in the 88 parade. And then we also had things like Easter egg hunts. And then we also had hundreds and hundreds of weddings. And Pat was the coordinator for a lot of those weddings. And we had a couple of unusual ones. Two of my favorites were everybody showed up from the church, the coordinator, the organist, the minister, everybody was here, and they had canceled the wedding and didn't tell anybody. And I guess some of the guests showed up, and they just, nobody knew anything about it. And my next favorite, my dad was the organist for many years, and we'll get into that here in a second, but they got up to the altar, and the groom fainted. And there's a little side door right here, so they brought him out, and they revived him, came in, fainted a second time. Brought him out, brought him back in, fainted a third time. The fourth time, they brought him back in, and as soon as he got in front of the minister, he said, "I now pronounce you man and wife, and we're done." But as I mentioned, my dad played organ for many, many years, over 50 years. So stand up again, if you would. So he was the organist for over 50 years, and one of my favorite stories for him was he used to be over here in a little partitioned area, and he was played in a dance band. So he had played the night before, and he had played really, a long time. So he didn't get in till 12 or 1 in the morning, and he was kind of tired. And he had his hands on the keys, and he fell asleep with his hands on the keys, and all you heard was, "Eh." And the minister, who was Ed Hoagie at the time, never broke a sweat, never wavered, just looked over and said, "Not yet, Wally, not yet, Wally." So that's my favorite story. So that gives you some ideas of what's going on. So I have one more story. Hallelujah. You've all seen that slide. And Doug and Randy and Claire's mom, my favorite story of her is she would look up at that word, and she would say, and you guys can hear her say it, "I can't understand why they put that word. It's one word. How do we not forget one word?" But that was Aunt Barbara. She was the best person in the world. So we also did things like gave away stuffed animals, and look at all the kids in that stuffed animals. Look at all the kids. And then there's one more with all the congregation. That year we had over 300 stuffed animals that we donated. And then the reason I wanted to put this in, this is the candle lighting service for Christmas. I believe that's 1995. And I wanted to show you all the people that were in this room. This room was completely filled. So what a cool picture. And then look at all the kids. And the reason I'm showing you all this is because this is what we can do in Cascade. These are the types of things that we can build, and these are the types of things that we can do. You know, I've talked to a lot of people, and I've said, you know what, this is a very bittersweet time for me. Obviously, all the history that we're talking about and all of everything that we've done, but we have a golden opportunity to start over. And we are better together than we are apart. And with all your help, and with the community that's over in Cascade, we've already had several neighbors that have come over and gone through the church and what you're doing, and we love what you're doing here, that kind of thing. So I think we're going to have a great relationship with them. And then the last one is a crowded sanctuary, and look at how many people are there. So I just wanted to show you, number one, give you a little history of the building, have some fun with some stories. Thank you, everyone, for being here. And then the last thing is we're going to open up the floor, and there's not going to be, I hate to say this, but there's not going to be a time limit. But we are going to open up the floor. If you would like to come up and talk a little bit, we would love for you to come up and talk to about your memories and some of the things that you've done and some of the things that you would like to do. So we'll start. Come on up. Oh, there you go. I don't know if you heard that, but Doug and Carol got married in this church in 1965. Okay, Lori and Jerry got married in this church in what year? 1978. Notice Lori said that, not Jerry. Oh, that's right. Doug said it, not Carol. And many of them, and you guys got married here too, right? In 1969. Anybody else that got married? 1999. 1968, right there. There you go. What year? 64. 83 and 99, that's right. There you go. So if anybody would like to come up and tell their story and talk a little bit about some of their memories, we'd love for you to do that. Anybody? You want me? I can just bring the microphone to you if that's...
Hallelujah. I'm so glad that we all are here. Glory. Many years ago, we went first time with Suzanne and Nat, and we were here, and then after they left, we were here for a while, and then we didn't, and we went to Coptic for a while, and now, of course, we've come back here, and I've had one stroke here. And that was in 95, and I learned, it took me 2 years to learn to speak again. Okay, have I been healed? Yes. In the last 2 years, I've had 2 hips, right and left, both new, free, fresh. And I'm just grateful that it's because of the family here, okay, and because of Spirit, who's in all of us. I'm just really grateful. And I want to tell you that I was also born in 47, on Father's Day.
Thank you. Anybody else?
So my wife Lori was in charge of the Sunday school, and I got conned into doing the Uniteens. And when I was doing the Uniteens, we had so many kids in the Sunday school that our classroom was the utility closet over there with the metal doors on it. That's where we had to meet at because it was the only room that we had. And the one story I just recalled that wanted to share is that I was getting my son ready for Sunday school, and we were in the restroom, and Dick Tweedy was in there. And somebody came in, and they said, "Jerry, what are you going to teach the kids about today?" And I said, "Well, we're going to learn about tithing and what it means to support the church and why it's so important." And Dick was washing his hands, and all of a sudden he turns on, he leans in my face, he goes, "Give him hell." So
The strangest wedding I ever played for. They,
Hold on.
Teach
Hold
on
on.
this whole thing. And one of the classrooms we talked about, we brought in a Ouija board. And we were teaching the kids about the Ouija board, and you subconsciously make it go where it's supposed to go and things like that. But they were Ouijing a lot of stuff. Also, I want to bring up that my wife and I, we eloped, but we had our celebration out in November I think it was in the spring in '77. And I'm looking back through, when the salads failed, her and I came up with the flurry idea. And I was looking at the float, and I remembered, yeah, I built the world. And I've been the AV tech for both churches for 40 years. Yeah.
Yes, Dan's been around for a long time. And actually, I've known Dan since I was about 10 because we were part of the astronomy club together.
the strangest wedding I ever played for. The ceremony started and the groom fainted. They dragged him out that side door, revived him, brought him back in again.
He didn't hear me say that, but that's
And he
okay.
fainted again. So they dragged him out the side door, brought him back in again, and he fainted again. So they dragged him out again, and they brought him back in. The minister said, "I now pronounce you man and wife."
At least you know my story was accurate. Anybody else?
At the time the church was expanded from this point to that point, and Fellowship Hall was expanded, I was a board president at the time. And consequently, about halfway through construction project, Dick Tweedy, who was the minister at the time, died, and we had to do a minister search at the same time as all the construction was going on. And it was like, okay, who's in charge? And I go, I guess I am. But that was a couple of years. We did it all and got it all done, and we filled it again. I mean, it was full before, but after he died, we did fill it again after that.
Any? I know.
I have a couple of stories. When my husband and I were looking, we found Unity in Milwaukee. We moved here to West Michigan. And I remember we went to Reverend Tweedy and said, we'd like to join. And he kept going, well, maybe you should kind of think about it. I mean, you know, kind of. And I'm like, we want to join. And he's like, well, you should really kind of. And he wouldn't give us eye contact. And I was like, wow, this guy is so dynamic in the pulpit, and one-on-one, not so good. But we joined anyway. And then I also want to acknowledge David Romanowski, who actually My husband, we were here doing the grounds. My husband, took a piece of equipment back. We got a phone call. He died here at the church. And I think this was his forever home. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. Mary is on a trip in South Dakota today. And then also, I wanted to say that when Lauren was first born, I was like, emergency. She came early. I had preemies. And I could not believe it. But I was at the hospital maybe 5 hours after she was born, and the interim minister from Ireland showed up to support me. Yes, Reverend Nichols, yes. And then when Lauren passed, this community was just fantastic to us. I think that's the last time this church was filled to the brim. We had to put seats out in the hallway. And it was just so special. I remember Shannon showed up at my house after Lauren had passed. I don't even know, what do we need to do? We had a whole luncheon, and all I did was buy the cake and pay for coffee. The whole community pulled together and put that whole luncheon on for over 200 people. So I just wanted to say thank you. You were with Lauren from day one until she passed. Thank you.
Anybody else?
I'd like to say something about this building. People say, what's this guy doing up here? He's not a member now, and he never was a member. I'd like to speak to what this space offers to the community in general. My best friend in high school, this has been 40 years ago, his father suffered from depression, and back then it wasn't talked about that much. And his business, he had some problems with people, and he ended up, he was a country club guy with a beautiful home, and things went south, and he had to sell his home, and he felt so bad, and he ended up committing suicide. And his daughter, who lived in the area, and she was a very successful registered nurse and an administrator at one of the local hospitals. Her funeral was held in this building, and her older brother gave the eulogy, and the latitude of spirit gave him the power to talk of depression and mental health as his sister had committed suicide. And I think the strength and the spirit that resides here goes out into the community. And as a non-member, I was touched, and I remain touched, and it's a great special space.
So Wally's got another story if you heard it already.
I remember Jim Graham very well. There was a church in Granville, a Reformed church in Granville, that was selling these seats for $25. And Jim says, I'll give you $5 a piece for them. And I made arrangements at American Seating to store them, and he bought them for $5. There was an inset that was designed by creative builders. That's where the recording room is now. He came over here by himself and closed off that inset. He was something else. He was about 300 pounds. He went up a ladder, he got to the top, and the whole ladder, all the way to the ground.
Thank you.
So I'm Kathy Kane. It was Kane, Rose, now for 53 years. But my mom and dad were builders of this church also, along with Wally. The women made all the meals. and fed the guys who were working so hard. And they also worked right along with them. But that has been many, many years ago. John and I were married in the Peace Chapel in '69, trying to set a wedding with a sailor from overseas coming back in June. Oh, no, May. Oh, wait a minute. No, I'm coming in March. Anyway, we finally pulled it together and got married in the Peace Chapel. I think my dad might have been the one that nailed Wally's jacket to the roof. Pretty sure he probably did. Anyway, many, many mixed emotions, of course, with having been here since I was born. I was Unity, so I don't know anything any different, which I think is a blessing. And just very, very grateful for all of the wonderful, wonderful times that we've had here. So I choose not to look at it. I know some people are really having a struggle with giving this up. I choose not to look at it that way. I choose to look at this as a time of gratitude that we had the time here. And we need to move forward. Bittersweet, but let's be grateful for the wonderful church and the family and the friends and just the support we've had so many years here. And let's move on and build anew.
Anybody else want to share?
We're talking about times when the church was filled, and I remember how the church was filled with song and laughter as Carol Johnson and her family celebrated her passing. And I think of all the years that she created original songs for our services and how she was such a wonderful support for our community and for our church community. And in gratitude, I remember Carol Johnson.
Anyone else? Anybody else like to share? Okay, well, thank you everyone so much. We just wanted to give you a little some of the memories that we have. And some of the good times and all of the souls that have come through that building. So thank you very much for being here. And I'll give it over to Reverend Mike Rocque.
Before they leave this building today, thank you, to just spend a moment and just connect with this building and connect with this history and connect with the energy of all those people that have blessed this building. Whether you do it in this room or you do it in Fellowship Hall or you do it out in the Rose Garden. Because this has been an amazing piece of history of Unity in Grand Rapids. And I would even say Unity International as well. 100 years. It's crazy to think about that. 100 years. And so as we celebrate it, of course there's going to be tears, and of course there's going to be emotions, and of course there's going to be all of those things. Let it all happen. Let it all come. As we finally wrap our arms around this amazing space and just be so grateful for it as we continue on our journey in Grand Rapids. And so I'm just going to ask you to spend a moment with me and close your eyes maybe and just pause and just say, thank you, God. Thank you for this amazing space Thank you for the people that built it, from all the men and women that were a part of that process, to all the men and women that have walked through the doors, and the kids and the animals, for all of the hugs, for all of the tears, for blessing this amazing space, for blessing our lives. We will be eternally grateful for this space. May it continue to bless the lives of all those children and everyone looking for comfort, looking for love, looking for joy, looking for peace, looking for unity. We are grateful, God. May we release this space into your hands. Let her continue to do what she's done for this 60 plus years. What a blessing. What an amazing, amazing, amazing blessing. Thank you, thank you, thank you for this space. And together we say, amen. Amen.